the
This
server.
conference will now be recorded.
We'll just get back to you once you finish that report. Have you discussed anything regarding reporting options and all? Northern Purneswari. We haven't discussed, right?
Not yet, sir. Haven't.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. First, let's finish this reporting and then I'll just come back to that one. Okay. Right. So let me connect to the system. See, generally, when you're discussing about the architecture, we know initially from any source, initially the data which loads into PSA, these are the basic stages, right? Is it recording is started? Automatically done? Na? Okay, it's going on. So from any source, initially the data which loads into PSA, from that if it is master data which loads into master data database tables, if it is transaction data. So if it is a classical info provider which leads into ODS object, so which maintains the detailed information and it is going to be updated into the cube, to update into the target information, right? So on top of this, we have some integrated reporting tool which is called as Business Explorer. To connect this Business Explorer, we have something called as OLAP processor. We have something called as OLAP processor. See, look at this from data managers, which is connected to the OLAP processor. The OLAP processor, which is connected to the front end. So let's say for example, when I get into this reporting, so these are the basic areas we used to have it, but nowadays no one is using except Query Designer here. The main ones is in Bex Query Designer, in Business Explorer, we have something called as Web Analyzer and Web Application Designer, Report Designer, and Bex Query Designer. But as part of Bex reporting, so we are using only this Query Designer nowadays. So what is this basically? See, when we go for this one, so basically in the reporting we define queries on top of this info products, right? Like if it is an info cube or DSO for classical info providers. If it is HANA based info providers, that is an advanced DSO for data analysis, right? So we can design queries on top of any providers. The classical providers are, what are those? Like info cube, DSO, multi-provider info set. Okay, that in multi-provider info set we have discussed, right? But HANA based info providers are info cube, sorry, advanced DSO, composite provider and all. Advanced DSO, composite provider and all, right? Phoniswari, Nathan, we have discussed the DSO multi-provider info set, right?
Yes.
We have
Yes, sir.
discussed it.
Right.
So how generally we design this one? See, we have these options, right? To design the queries, generally we use the T code is RRMX. This is the direct transaction code, but from other way also we can able to log into the query designer. So we execute the queries, either we execute in the browser and Excel level. Generally in our implementation, when you are implementation projects, for executing the queries and all for testing, we use The T code is RSRT to execute the queries. To execute the queries. So in the Business Explorer, basically we have a query designer where we design the Bex queries, and Bex analyzer where we design the Bex workbooks like Excel based formatted queries. So when you want to get into Excel based formatted queries, we supposed to use only RRMX T code. Then only we can able to get in. And we have something called as WAD web application design, which is mainly used to design which to design the customized web templates. Generally we use WAD. Like these web reports, this we call it as a web application designer, which will be executing on the browser only. Generally, SAP is providing some standard web templates. So we go about using WAD to design the custom web templates with more of navigation features. With more of navigation features, we were using WAD. But nowadays, we have something called నాకు phone కావాలి కుదురుతున్నా. We have something called as Webi. We are using Webi for to design the customized web templates. That is in a part of BO reporting tool. And we have something called as report designer. Report designer, which is mainly used to provide more of layout formatting features at web template level. Like when you want to provide some headers, footers, inserting logos, colors, fonts, and all this stuff. All this stuff we use some report designer. But instead of report designer, we are using some other BO reporting flavor that is called as crystal reports. We are using crystal reports. Okay. The main focus is query designer, especially as part of BW reporting with the Business Explorer. The main one is query designer. We are using query designer. We are using. See this Bex Query Designer, Bex Analyzer, Web Application Designer, which is replaced by BO tool, that is Webi, Web Reporting Designer, which is replaced by BO2, that is Crystal Reports. Okay. But in Query Designer, we have transaction code is RRMX. To execute the query, we have transaction code is RSRT. So to design the queries, look at this here. When you connect this one, yeah, this RRMX is, it is not working. So let's connect to the system to BW4 Anna. Rest one, right? So when you use the T code is RRMX, I will give you some list of T codes. I'll prepare a document. I'll just give you. We have some runtime issue. It is coming. Okay. So I'll just check with that consultant. Definitely. Let me take a photo and send it to him. One second. So we have other way to get into the query designer. What to do is go to Windows M. So go to Start, go to Search. From here also we can able to get it. See, this is query designer. What is the system? This is our system, right? Okay. This is how we can able to get it. This is the query designer here. This is the query designer. This would be the query designer. Give me 1 second. Basis consultant is dropping a message. 1 second, please. See, how do we design the query here? Just when you click on new query, you select any of the info provider. So we have a list of info providers. So let me check the info providers what we have. Go to RS7. See, let me check the info providers. What are the info providers we have? Let me take this cube. What is the data? What is the cube? What is the data we have? Some material number, customer number, sales order number. There's some order quantity. We have some calorie and all this stuff, right? Fine. So when you want to check the data, select cube, display data, go to field selection, customer ID, material number, sales number, some quantity revenues and all. Okay, this is my query. This is my query. Right. Now, sorry, this is my data which is there in my info cube IC underscore TD1. How do we design the query? So once you get into this, get into the screen, you just click on new query. Name. What is the cube name? Just find the info provider IC underscore TD1. Open. So you'll get here. You can see dimensions. Customer number, remitting number, some order quantity, amount. So like this, this is the basic query information. Save this query. Generally place the characteristics into rows, key figures into columns. What is this query? TD1 report. Just give something. Okay. Here also we have some execution option. So since there is no linking with the browser, so even though if when you execute this one, so it shows some link is missing. But in general, for even in the projects also, to execute the queries in the sample level, while doing the implementation to execute the queries, they use something called as T code is RSRT. The T code is RSRT. So this query monitor, we just go there. It will give you the latest query. What is that? TD1 report, right? Execute. So this is how the query works out. So basically how it is connecting to this OLAP processor. So look at this here. Let's say for example, this is my info cube, customer number, material number, some revenue, some quantity. Okay. So we have some information here. So when you design a query with only customer ID and revenue, so let's say I have a cube with this all these fields, right? So I'm creating a Bex query with only with customer number and revenue. When you run the Bex report, what will happen? First, it sends a request to this OLAP processor. First, it sends the request to the OLAP processor. Okay. The OLAP processor checks within the OLAP. It will check, do you have any data in the OLAP cache, related data? If it is there, if it finds any data into the cache, what will happen? It takes data from this cache, it gets back to the report and shows you in the front end. But if there is no data, selected data based on the selection, what will happen? It redirects the query. It redirects the query on the database, either a cube or whatever it is. And based on the query selection, it selects the data from this cube. It selects the data from this cube. This is the data. It selects the data from this cube and is moved to the OLAP processor. And is moved to the OLAP processor. And in OLAP processor, it executes the aggregation functions. It executes the aggregation functions and nothing but it executes the grouping of records in the OLAP processor. Because see, here the customer ID is same. We have a revenues 100, 200, 300. Since the same customer ID, right? These C100 which is aggregating these revenues. So it is grouping of these records in the OLAP processor. After it is grouped, it places one copy into the OLAP cache. It places one copy into OLAP cache and then sends it back to the front end, the same copy. So what will happen? So initially, so when you run the query, first initially it fills the cache and it sends and then and it sends back to the report. Okay. So next time, if it is available in the cache, what will happen? Instead of go back to this info cube, redirect to this database, it directly takes the data from OLAP cache and sends to the report. This is how the OLAP processor works in the query designer level. Okay. So in the same way, so here, what we understand here, whenever we execute the query, this is my query information. Where is that? This is the query information. Okay. So based on the selections, based on the info objects, what we selected, according to that, it is reporting into the report rate. So here we are getting some results, right? If you want to remove the results, what to do is, see, whenever we select any of the field, you'll getting a properties window here. For query, when you click on query, you'll get a properties window. Query properties. When you go for this customer properties. When you go to display, so you just make it a result rows always suppress. Just make it result rows always suppress. For customer ID and material number also. Result rows always suppress. Material number also result rows always suppress. Now you just save this one, save it, and execute the other one. 1 second. Na? One second. So when you run this query now, so you'll get this one. Customers and meters. This is how deleting the result rows one. This is how deleting the result rows. Okay. So this is the basic query designer. This would be the basic query designer. We have some rows, columns, and all this stuff right here. So whatever the value, so whatever the fields which we are maintaining in the rows, what will happen? So it would store that initial result set of the query. When you place anything in columns, it will show the column wise. You look at this column wise. Right. This is the basic understanding of the rows and columns. Generally, the characteristics which maintains in rows, the key figures which maintains in the columns. So what about the free characteristics? So what will happen if anything is put into the free characteristics? What will happen? Let's say, for example, we have customer ID, material ID. We have something called a sales order, sales number, right? Remove the result rows, sales order numbers. See, I'm just putting the material also. If you place anything in free characteristics, if you place anything in free characteristics, you don't get to see in the result set of the query for the first time these fields. But you can see in the navigation bar, pan, we have some block here, navigation block, where you can drill down or drill across or lateral stages. I mean to say is, so we just put some fields here, right? Right. Then you save this query. Execute the query. What is happening here? Only customer, amount and quantity, right? So look at this. This is the navigation bar where you could see the material number and sales order number. See, from here user can able to take this one. When you want to drill down or drill across, when you want to use this material number, you can access. Drill across, sales order number, you can access like this. So if you put anything in free characteristics, initially it won't fetch any data for these fields. Ultimately, it affects the reporting performance, right? So it's good for reporting performance. So it will give you what are the fields if you don't want. All the fields will be putting into free characteristics, but we'll be giving a flexibility to the user. What are the fields you want? He can directly put those fields. He can directly put those fields into navigation bar here. Look at this here like this. That is what exactly the free characteristics for. So generally, if you have any things like a sales order number, customer product, and all the fields will be placing into the free characteristics. Only something like a carrier kind of thing will be placing into the rows. Okay. Initially, which execute the we execute the query with only these limited fields, and then based on the requirement, you just drag and drop in the sense you can drill down or drill across on later stages. That is how free characteristics works. Okay, right. Next one, we have something called as filters here. In filters, we have some characteristic restriction and default value. So what is exactly this filter here? When you want to filter or when you want to restrict the output of the query based on the value of characteristic. When you want to restrict the output of the query based on the value of characteristics, we go for restriction. In restriction, we have two restrictions here, default value and characteristic restriction. Let's say, for example, first we use default value, select customer ID. We are just restricting the customers. So what are the customers you want to see in the report? We just put those customers here. Okay, 4 customers I'm selecting. Okay. So what will happen? Just save this query. Save this query. And when you run this query, see only for C1000, C1003, 1007, 1008 it is coming. Okay. But we can change the filter condition, the runtime. See, when you go for this filter here, it will give you the list of customers. I want only these. Okay, 1001, 1002, 5, 6. You can change. See 1001, 1002, 1005, and 1006. Okay. So if I do restriction in default value, if I do restriction in default value, it will affect the query initially, but user can change the filter by runtime by clicking on the filter icon in the navigation bar, filter icon in the navigation pane. That is what the default value. But if it's the same restriction in the characteristic restriction, look at this here. I'm just deleting all this. Removing. Okay. Same restriction. Previous one. 3579 I'm giving. Go to single values. 3579. Okay. See what will happen. See when you run this query. Go back. When you run this query, so you'll get only this. See 3579. 3579. Only these 4 will come. But when you try to change this filter, look at this here. Go to filter. It would shows you only the filters what of the customer IDs we have filtered. Only those it will shows you. The rest we can't show. When you want only these two, see 105, 1005, 1006. That is what the characteristic restriction. So if I do restriction in the characteristic restriction, if I do restriction in what is that characteristic? If I do the same restriction and characteristic restriction, user can't change the filter by runtime. But both are actually filtering the data. Both are actually filtering the data. This is what exactly the rows, columns, free characteristics and all. So whether my characteristics is rows or columns or free characteristics for filtering, it will still affect my query output. But only thing is the displaying is different. If you put in rows, so it stores that initial result set of the query. It stores completely. But if you put in columns, it will show in column wise. If you put in free characteristics, it will not show, but if you can drill down or drill across. So these are the options we have in the filters and free characteristics. But in filters, what we have done, we were restricted based on the particular characteristic value, right? We were restricting the data based on the particular characteristic value. So when you want to restrict the data based on the key figure value, Then we'll go something called as condition. Look at this, we have something called as condition. So something called as condition. Just go to condition, create new condition, create new condition, edit, define condition parameters, key figures, amount, operator. If it is something greater than, what are the values which is coming? Amount 300, 250 like that. Okay. If it is greater than 300, only those customers. So all characteristics with customer ID. Okay. Since I have only customer ID, I'm selecting this one. Otherwise, so based on if you have multiple info objects, I can able to select these ones. So based on this customer IDs, we'll be going to show you. This is condition, right? Greater than 300, right? Just save this query. Save this query and execute the query. Save the query and execute the query. Greater than 300, we have some 500, okay, 400, 450, 452, something like that. If it is greater than 400, we'll get some more restrictions. Greater than 450, so we have some amounts here. C1000, 1002, 006, 008. This is the difference between condition and restriction. So what is saying here? When you want to restrict, the output of the query for a particular values of characteristics. When you want to restrict the output of the query for particular values of characteristics, we use restriction. When you do restriction based upon the key figure values, we use condition. When you do restriction based upon the key figure values, we do condition. Something like a top 3 customers quantity sold. We have some top 3, top n. Okay, we have all the conditions. Look at this here. It's greater than, less than, top n, bottom n. Okay, so top sum, bottom total, all this stuff we have. So based on that, we can able to do this one. So we can have multiple conditions in a report also if you want. But condition is active and inactive. See, look at this here. We have something called as condition is active. If you don't have this, if you don't enable the checkbox, what will happen? Look at this here. When you run this one, see, condition is inactive. Here the condition is inactive here. Okay, that is query level. Let's say for example, query level, I'm just putting like this. It will affect the query. Okay, it will affect the query, right? But here also we can deactivate this condition somewhere. See, look at this condition. So if you deactivate, you'll get all the results. If you activate, you'll get the restricted results. This is what condition under restriction. And next one is restricted key figure. Restricted key figure means when you want to restrict the key figure values based on the characteristic selection. When you want to restrict the key figure values based on the characteristic selections, we go for restricted key figure. How do we do? Just go there here. Where is that? And just remove this condition. Restricted key figure. So go to key figure folder, right click, new restricted key figure. So go to key figure folder, right click, new restricted key figure. Select new restricted, right click, edit. New RKF, restricted key figure. I'm restricting some, let's say, from quantities based on some material numbers. Can expand this one, we can select this material numbers, some M10, M12, something. Okay, 4 I gave here. Save. Save. So this is a restricted key figure. This is a restricted key figure. You can drag in archive. Okay, I'll just save this query. Once you save it, we can check here. Where is that? Just close this window. How many windows is open? Just go back, execute. See customer ID, amount, quantity. We can leave this, remove this quantity column. See, we are restricted only the quantities. Only for this, it is showing C1000 and C1003, C1004, and C1008 like that. Okay, you can remove this quantity. Anyway, quantities will come for RKF rate. Okay, this is what restricted key figure. It will restrict only to particular column. It will restrict the key figure values only to particular column. It is not the entire query results. Okay, right. In the same way, same like restricted key figure, we have something called as new selection. Just remove this here. Select key figure. We have some quantity. Let's say, for example, new selection. You can remove this quantity. New selection. Edit. So we are restricting the key figures quantities based on, let's say, for example, sales order numbers. Okay, I gave something. What is this here? New selection, right? Okay. See, okay, what is that sales order number, right? When you remove these ones, always suppress sales order number and customer ID. So new selection also same like restricted key figure, right? Just same like restricted key figure only. Mr. Nathan, please mute your mic. See the new selection, which was restricted these quantities. Same like archive under new selection. But what is the difference? A restricted key figure is global to the info provider. New selection is local to this query alone. New selection is local to this query alone. A restricted key figure is global to this info provider, like info key. But how do we check? So global to this info provider means what are all the reports which was generated on top of this info provider. This restricted key figure is available globally, just like our regular key figures. New selection, since it is local to this query, right? Which is local to this query alone. We can't find this new selection in other queries, even though you created on top of this info provider. See, let me create one more query. When you want to check this technical name, IC underscore TD1, right? So you can check the technical names description. We can change here. So this is a new query on top of what is that? What is the query name? IC underscore TD1. So the restricted key figure is available here. What is that restricted key figure? New archive is available, but new selection is not available here. That is the difference. So what is the difference here? Restricted key figure. When you want to restrict a particular key figure value based on the value of characteristic, we go for restricted key. Nathan, please, could you please mute your mic? Hello, friend. Nathan, could you please mute your
Yeah,
mic?
yeah.
Okay, right. And where we are? So when you want to restrict a particular key figure values based on the value of characteristic, we go for restricted key figure. So we can use a restricted key figure by using multiple characteristic values also. That is also possible. How do we do? So like what to decide it here? Just open existing query. How do you open existing query? Open. When you go to favorites, it will give you the list of queries what we have created. TD1 report, right? Okay. This is archive, right? If you want, we can give multiple characteristics also. This is the one, right? Material number, right? If you want other one, sales order number, we can do some restriction and all this stuff. That is possible. So restricted key figure will restrict only to particular column. It will restrict only to particular column. So the restricted key figure is global. What is this? Restricted key figure is global. Like once it is created, it can be used on all queries built on the same info provider. That is what I told you, right? So any number of queries we designed on top of the same info provider, the restricted key figure is available. That is global. New selection is same as restricted key figure, but new selection is local. So if you want to reuse the same new selection in multiple queries, if you want to reuse the same new selection in multiple queries, what we need to do? We have to save as a structure and we can use it globally. How do we do? Since we have a open existing query, there's a new selection, right? Just go to key figure structure, save as. See, str structure one. Okay. So this is how we generated structure. So when you save this one, see, look at this. When you're trying to create a new query, same info queue. See, you'll get this global. So what are all the things we have? It is global structure with key figures. So you'll get it structure. This is what the new selection under restricted key figure. Restricted key figure is global, but the new selection is local. That's it. Okay. Right. Next one. Calculated key figure under new formula. What do you mean by calculated? When you want to perform some calculations by using some existing key figure values. Create a new KPI by using some existing key figure values. We use calculated key figure. How do we do? So open existing query. Remove the structure. Open existing query. Remove the structure. Uh, Calculated key figure. Right? Go to key figure folder. New calculated key figure. Edit. Something like new CKF calculated key figure. Okay. So the amount, something like amount divided by quantity. What are the value which comes? That value you just keep it as something like in a cost. Just assume that. Any calculations we can do. We have some basic functions, percentage function, data functions, and all this stuff. Just save this query. This is CKF, right? Drop quantity. New query. Yeah, this is. Open existing query. Okay, CKF once you created that could be available. TD1 report. Don't save this one. What is my query name? It is always shows you TD1 report, right? Description. Just keep it description. See, this is the one, right? I created CKF quantity and amount. CKF is global, right? Anywhere we can create. Save. And even we can execute. Just go back and execute. Customer, sales order number, CKF. See, 500 by 50, that is 10. So we have some revenue currencies and unit of measures here. We have some. So it is not quite good, right? So to remove this one, what to do is go to calculated key figure, edit, just remove this we have something called as data functions. We have something called as value without dimension, without no unit. Just use this one. Then the amount divided by quantity. Save. Okay. Execute. Okay. Customer, sell certain number, cost, quantity, amount one. Okay. That's it. Just go back. Now, this is what calculate. We can do all any sort of calculations here. We can do all sort of calculations. Now, next one is new formula. Just remove this calculate key figure. Create new formula. New formula also it perform the same task, same functionality. What we have the calculate key figure. Look at this here. Same like amount minus 8% is something. I'm just giving some tax, whatever it is. Just give anything tax. So save errors. Edit. It won't take like this or what? Okay, with the tax percentage. Just amount into 5 something I'm just giving. Okay, amount divided by 5. Give something. Save. So we can give some tax. So, but the thing is here, what is this? What is this new formula, right? This is new formula. But this formula is local to this query alone. Calculated key figure is global to this entire provider. So when you're trying to create a new query on top of this one, TD1, so will it be coming? New formula will be coming. Formula, new calculated key figure we can see, we can find, but new formula I cannot find. But if you want to make this new formula also global, what to do? We need to save as a structure. Okay, save as structure. That's it. So when you save this one, when you create a new query on top of the same cube now, structure is available. Okay, so that is the difference of this new formula and calculated key figure. So what is saying here? When you want to create new key figure based on the existing key figures by performing some calculations, we use calculated key figure. When we use calculated key figure, it performs some calculations throughout the entire column. It is global, can be used in all reports designed on the same queue. We can use calculated key figure on another calculated key figure also. But where is new formula? Same as calculated key figure, but new formula is local. But if you want to reuse the same new formula in multiple queries, we have to save as a structure and we can use it. That is the difference of new formula and calculated key figure. But when it comes to the structure which is a reusable component, we can create structure from row level or column level. Row level or column level. Okay. So we have two types of structure. Once you save the structure, that is global structure. So you'll get it here. If you don't save here, this could be local structure, local to this query alone. The global structures which is mainly used when you want to define new formulas and new selections, we use this one. So we can use global structure to define new selection and new formulas globally. Then only it made global, right? So once we save the structure, we can reuse in multiple queries within that info program. That is global since it is. Otherwise, if you don't save, it is local to this particular query. How many structures we can have is maximum only two, row level and column level. But out of these two, I can use key figures only one structure. Maximum number of structures we can report is two. One is column level, other one is row level. So, okay. And we can't use same key figure in more than one structure. We cannot use same key figure in more than one structure. But we can create any number of structures, but we can't use more than two structures in a report. Okay. Right. If you make any changes in structure, which will reflect in all other queries, ultimately, right, it is global. But if you don't want to affect the changes what you made for other queries, we need to use something called as a remove reference. We should be using something called as remove reference. Let's say, for example, let's try this one. Will it work? This is structure 2, right? I'm just removing this quantity. Okay. Save. New query. Now this is. We are just defining this one, right? Let's say, for example, I'll try to save this. Just using this one. Element structure is not defined. Element structure. Structure is a reusable saving. Can influence other queries. Remove it. Just use remove reference. TD1 TD1 కదా TD1 report 11. I'm just saving. It has been saved right here. It has been affected, right? And let's say, for example, This is the report rate. It is having some issue here. Error, still error is there. Structure is not defined. Okay, that is not the problem. This is the problem. Just now I created the structure, right? Where I created the structure for tags. When we use remove reference, there is no already done. Na? Save. When you run this query, well, tax in amount, right? But when you open this other query, where is that? TD1 report, right? We made some changes, right? Here. Then open. The changes is not reflecting here. Look at this here. That is what the remove reference. What is saying here? By using this option remove reference, changes will not reflect in other queries also. That is what the structures. And we have something called as exceptions. What do you mean by exception here? Which is mainly used to provide some alerts to analyze the performance of the customer or a material, whatever it is, performance of the key indicator. So let's say, for example, what to do? Open existing query, TD1 report, remove all this stuff, structures and all this stuff, quantities and amount. Okay. And look at this here, we have something called as exception here. New exception. Edit. Exception also we have some active and inactive, just like condition. But we can toggle this exception at a runtime also. So we are creating exception based on the exception definition. Go to definition, creating exception on the amount. Go to general. If it is bad exception, it is something less than 400, so less than 400. Critical exception, something like equal to 500. Good exception, greater than 500. So good will give you the color with the green, the bad will give you some pink or red, critical will give you some orange like that. Okay. So this coloring has to be done on which column? Evaluated structure element. Same amount column. I just want to give the colorings. Cell restrictions. So based on the customer number, so it is going to be, so this exception will affect only on the amounts, not the total on top of this total. So that is the reason everything except totals transfer. Okay, that's it. Just save this query. Just go back, execute. Save the query, go back, execute. Not this one. TD1 report, right? I think this is TD2 report. This is the one, right? TD1. See? Only on top of this amount. What I told you, if it is less than 400, see that is in pink in color. Equal to 500, that is orange in color. Greater than 500, is there anything is there? Nothing, huh? I'll do one thing. The exception. Less than 400, equal to 400, greater than 400. I'll just make it. Okay. Right. So just go back and exclude. See, equal to 400, only one, that is critical exception. Less than 400, that is in pink. Greater than 400, that would be red in color. Okay. This is what exceptions here. So these are the basic understanding and options of this understanding. So okay, options of this query designer. But in all this, when you do any restrictions, conditions, calculations, okay, filtering, whatever it is, while designing the query itself, we made some changes. We made these filters and whatever it is, right? Okay. But whenever we execute the query, it will be going to give you the same results. But what I want is, I just want to give some filters or conditions or calculations at query execution time. Query execution time. What to do? When to do this one? By the time we use something called as variables concept. We use something called as variables concept. Variables which is mainly used to parameterize the query. Like to make the query dynamic, we use variables concept. So basically we have different types of variables: characteristic variable, text variable, formula variable, and hierarchy variables and hierarchy node variable, like that. Okay. So characteristic variable generally we use in the restriction level. Restriction and characteristic dynamic, or restricted key figure level, we use characteristic variable. For all the variables will be processed through something called as processing types here. So every variable will have a processing type. It defines how we are processing the value to this variable. How we are processing the value to this variable. See, we have something called as user entry default value, some customer exit and SAP exit authorizations and all this stuff. User entry default value means the variable can feed from this user. Customer exit means by writing some ABAP code, we feed the value to the variable. SAP exit is we have some business content variables. We pass the variables to this as a processing type. Then we use SAP exit. Authorizations, something like based on the authorizations, we use the processing type. Replacement path is something like when you want to use the result set of the query 1 as a input to the query 2, then we use something called as replacement path. Okay. So this one's characteristic variable use. How do we use here? Let's say, for example, remove all these exceptions and all. We have simple quantity, amount and all, right? So when you go for these filters here, let's say for example, take sales order number, we have only customer ID, right? So generally we are restricting like this, right? Select restrict, and which will give you, when you go for this single value, what are all the values you want, we start creating like this, right? Okay. So instead of that, do you have variable here? So selected variable created. So characteristic value variable here. Just go and click on here. See new variable. What type of variable is? Characteristic value variable. So something like variable char1. So the type of variable is characteristic variable. So replacement path. Look at this here. Manual entry default value which I'm taking. And details. We are providing a single value or multiple single value or interval or range, whatever it is, we can able to select. Let's say for example, several single values I'm selecting. Variable is optional or mandatory. So if it is mandatory, until unless you provide a value, the query will not be going to process. You just make it optional or mandatory, whatever it is. Okay, something like that. So that's it. So instead of giving a values here, I'm just passing a variable here. I just pass the variable. How do we do? Now go to save. So when you run the query now, go to RS7, RS right? Go to RSRT, execute. See, it prompts the variable window here, where we need to give what are the variables, what are the selections you want. C300. Okay, just give something. We can give all this. Continue. So look at this. What will happen according to this one? Refresh it. Related it. And you click on variable. Again, it will comment. Want to change? Okay. Then want to add some more. Want to remove existing ones. We can do like this. Query execution time, right? We can provide a value here. This is what characteristic value at restricted level. Okay, right. Just remove it. How do you use the characteristic value at restricted key figure level? We have something called restricted key figure right here. Archive. Go to edit. We are giving the here on top of material number. Na? I'm just remove the material number. Customer on the top of customer I have variable, right? See, this is the variable, right? The same thing here. Put the variable RKF. Put it here based on the quantities, right? Save. Can you run this one? So if you want the same selections, if you want, you will give restricted key figures amounts. If you want, we can remove this quantities. It is these are all, say 50 each, 37, 300 each, 200 bags and all. Okay. So when you want to change this one, we can remove. Okay. You can delete like this. You can change. Delete it. Okay. This is how uses of characteristic variable at restricted key figure level. Okay. So what is saying here? When you want to make restriction on characteristic dynamically, we'll go for characteristic variable. Example, some revenue restricted with sales office, restricted variable. So once we create a variable, we cannot make any changes on that. If you want, we can create the new variable only. We cannot make any changes of the variable. Okay, right. So how do you go for text variable? Text variable, which is mainly used when you want to provide some headings, okay, title of the report, or key figure settings, restricted key figure, calculated key figure settings dynamically. Then we go for characters, text variable. See, look at this here. This is quantitative properties, right? When I click on here, you can see query properties. What is my query name? TD1 report, right? Say the description of TD1 report. Just remove it. So whenever you find this option, it allows you to create a variable, new variable. Okay, create a variable. So var underscore txt1. So what is the type of variable? Text variable. Okay. Maximum length of text variable is 60. Since it is text, right? Variable represents is only single values. Okay. Save. And when I execute, it is asking text variable. Let's say, for example, I'm just giving demo report. So what is the query name here? Demo report. 1 second now. See the text variable. So demo report here. Like this. And I execute the query. Sample query. So we can give anything like this. See, sample query. This is out providing the query heading dynamically. Okay, like this. Next one, how to use text variable, the key figure settings and all. So remove this variable here, remove this link, variable link, something td1 report rate. Let's say for example this is the quantity rate. Remove this quantity, new variable, okay, something var underscore txt2, type of variable text, save, okay, that's save, execute, text variable, some order quantity, whatever it is, see, like this. And when we go for your sales quantity, okay, like this we can do it. This is what text variable. And formula variable, whenever we go for any calculations with numeric values, we can go for formula variable. So let's say for example, this is quantity. So where we do some restrictions, condition level, exception level, calculation level. Okay. So when we go for this condition, creating a condition, new condition, edit, defining condition based on the quantities. If it is greater than, I'm not providing a value here. Create a variable. Okay. You can create formula variable. Var underscore formula 1. Okay. Save. Transfer. Okay. Now save this query. Variables. So since still it is in buffer here, just go back and execute again. Formula variable. Quantity set, if it is 450, greater than 450. Order quantities 450. What is greater than 450 is 500 bags. Okay. And greater than 350, 400 and 550. Okay. So we can define formula variable the condition like this. When we go for exceptions, again edit, defining exception based on the amounts. Let's say for example new good, if it is greater than new variable farm to transfer. So if it is bad, less than, see, like this we can create, passing a value, that's it. Okay. Display same, restricted characteristics, everything except total. Okay. Save. Same thing what we made, instead of providing value, we are giving this one. There, it is greater than, right? If it is, so we can give the proper description here. So greater than 450 and less than 350. What will happen? See, 1 second, please. 1 second, 1 second. So, sorry. See, if it is greater than 400, that would be in green color, and less than something 350, yeah? That is something here. Okay. What is greater than 450, less than 450? What will happen? So greater than 450 in green color, less than 450 in red color. So any calculations, any restrictions we can do. This is our usage of formula variable at exception level. And you can even use the calculated key
But
figure levels also.
sir, here, irrespective of currency, it's displaying the values, no?
Only values. No, it's irrespective of the currency. In a currency will take care, right? So calculated key figure. So here we created some calculated key figure right here. I'll create one more key figure. New calculated key figure. Edit. CKF2. Okay. Some amount. Just give something. Instead of providing a value here, so if you have formula variables, I can use any of the variable here. Let's say, for example, formula variable 1. Otherwise, if you want, we can create a new variable here also. So, Rajesh, you asked me irrespective of the currency rate. You asked me rate. Say, understand your
Yes.
point. You mean to say these are the currencies, right? So generally, in general, so the currencies which comes from this multiple sources, right? The currencies, euros, in the European, they just give the European currencies, and some Indians they give Indian currency while entering the data. But when it comes to this analysis, all the you'll be having some doing some currency conversions. All the
Mm.
currencies will be converted into only one currency, Rajesh.
Yeah.
On top of that currency, we'll be doing. Okay,
Okay. Got it.
we do some currency conversion and unit conversions and all. So this is the ones CKF2. Okay, I'm just giving some idea about these ones. That's it. Okay, I'm not giving a proper description here. So this I'm just giving two. What will happen? 2 means 500 into 2, 1000. 100 into 2, 2000. Okay, 450 into 2, 900. Like this one. So all sort of calculations in the new formula level also we can do it. New formula level also we can do it. 500 into 5, 2500 like this. Okay. So the exception level, calculation level, calculated key figure level, and a new formula level also we can do it. These are the formula variable. But hierarchy variables means if you have hierarchy, then only I can able to use this hierarchy. I have some hierarchies and other server. I'll show you. Okay. This is actually a new server. We won't be having any hierarchies here. Select this server, this server. When you go to RS7, you could see something, some hierarchies here. Let's say, for example, this is having some hierarchy. SMID underscore HER3 rate, we have a hierarchy here on top of this one. Okay. So you look at this here. Go to info objects. You can see. SMID underscore HER4 or HER3, whatever it is. This is the hierarchy here. US sales, north region, south region. Under the regions, I have some states. Ah, so this is the hierarchy, right? So I'll try to design the Bex query. So generally, how do we use the Bex query is I told you, right? So just search an RRMX. When you go to RRMX, it will open Excel window with integrated system. Our server also, I'll just make it ready for RRMX. Don't worry. Phone is free.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Create new query. New query. So when I go for this technical names of these ones, some SMID underscore HER4. Trying to take this one. So generally what happens is we are just giving sales manager some, we have some options here, right? The attributes, manager name, location and phone number, whatever it is. This is for attributes. For text, sales manager, display, key and text. And for the hierarchy, how do we do? Just go to hierarchy, press button for sales selection. We'll be selecting hierarchy like this. This is the query design time. We are selected. Hierarchy report. Hierarchy report. So when you run this query, see here we have some options here. Look at this. When you click on here, use and exit query, this is Excel based. I mean to say the workbooks I told you, right? Query designer, analyzer I told you, right? When you click on here, this is kind of analyzer. Here itself you can able to execute this one. Only when you go for RRMX transaction code. Only when you go for RRMX transaction code. So when you want to save this one, it is going to be saved as in a workbook basically. So look at this here, Excel macro workbooks here. Okay. So generally we won't save like this, but where is this one? When you want to run this query, What to do? Go to RSRT. We can run this query. This is the basic query, right? So till this point is fine. But if you have multiple hierarchies, you have a sales hierarchy, US hierarchy, I have a Europe hierarchy, multiple hierarchies. How do we select the runtime? That is the matters. That is what hierarchy variables. Just so go to create new query. From there, you can open existing query. Favorites. Some ID underscore chair. So this is the one, right? Instead of selecting this one, I just go to this one, hierarchy variable. Set self. Click on here. Select the list. See hierarchy variable. Just create hierarchy variable. One type of variable hierarchy. Okay. 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 Now we save this query. Okay. So here also we have an option execute the query in the browser. But here there is no link is missing, right? I told you, right? But instead, will it be executing or what? No. So when you run this query by using RSRT, where is that? It's not been saved or what? Hierarchy variable owner, right? Just save it. Now just go back and execute. Why it is automatically come? See, it is asking the hierarchy. So if we have multiple hierarchies, we can able to select here. Since I have only one hierarchy, I will be able to select like this. Continue. ESSLs, where you can see north region, south region and all. This is hierarchy variable. But hierarchy node variable. So here we have some nodes, right? Region, state, node and all, right? From there also I can able to create the variable. Just remove this variable first. And go for this filter. We have sales organization, sales manager, right? That filters level. Go to restrict. Go to variables. This is characteristic value variable, right? This is hierarchy node variable. You look at this here. Create. CR underscore NODE. Okay. Hierarchy node. Like this. Save this one. Save this hierarchy. You go back and execute the hierarchy node here. Here it would show how many nodes we have. US sales, North region, South region, California, whatever, whichever node you want. When you want to node X only for California, it would show you only for California. Okay, like this. You go to RSRT, execute. You want to go for something South region. So this is how we can do it. Okay, this is what the hierarchy node variable. Okay, this is what the variables. Rest of the reporting options we'll see in the tomorrow's class. Okay, all of you. Chris, Nathan.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. I'll just make it ready that RRMX code. Okay, probably by tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
okay.
Nathan, my friend. Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good
Thank
night.
you, sir.
Bye bye.
You can log in, Rajesh. Same link.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
anything
Thank you, sir.
is,
Good night.
you can ping me so that I'll just help
Okay.
you out.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you
sure.
all. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
night.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Good night.